Amy from Doodle Dog Designs. I have these two purple wools, and they were both part of different garments. Well, this one's pretty vivid purple, and this one's not bad, but it's just a little too solid for what I want to do. I want to make some flowers, some rug hooked flowers, and I want to use this for the petals, and I just don't want it to be solid. So I'm going to see what I can do to make them look more mottled. Like maybe this pink, or even this pink is mottled, but it also has some dark staining look to it. So I want something more like that. This is completely an experiment. I haven't tried this before, so we will see how it goes together. I've poured some water in my sink and I'm going to get the wool wet. Now that the fabric is wet, I'm going to pour a little bit of bleach into the water. Since I want a mottled look, I don't want the bleach to get on the entire piece of fabric, so I'm going to keep it bunched up. I wouldn't recommend using bleach on a wool garment that you intend to keep and use for wearing. I gave it a little bit of time and I still wasn't seeing any change, so I decided to add a little bit more bleach, pouring it really close to the wool. I've used in another video a RIT color remover. It's a product you can buy and it is made to remove color, and it was interesting results. I will put a link in the description below to that video. Still not seeing any change here. So I let the water out and I'm going to pour some bleach directly on, but with it all scrunched up, and just let that set for a little bit. Let's see what happens. Okay, I left that for just a couple of minutes and I can already see that that is starting to do some work here. I'm going to squeeze it out a little bit. I'm going to let it set a few more minutes and we'll see what it looks like, and then I'll rinse it out. Here's how it looked after it sat for a little bit, and now I'm going to rinse it and then hang it up to dry. I'm going to start on the other color of wool. When I did the video showing the RIT dye remover, I found that different wools react to the process differently, so that's why I wanted to try two different wools for this experiment also. I do have two pieces of this wool and they are both wet now, and I am going to just pour the bleach directly on since that seemed to work better with the other one, and we'll see what happens. Now I will let that soak for a little bit. This time I timed it and I let it soak for 13 minutes, and I can definitely see a difference in the fabrics. I'm going to rinse them out and then hang them up to dry and see how they look. My wool is not completely dry yet, but it's dry enough for me to be able to tell the bleach has given it a mottled look. But I want it to have a darker look also, so my next step is going to be to dye it in some walnut dye. The walnut does have a definite odor, so you want to do this with a window open or outside. I have my dye pot here with a fairly small amount of water. I want the wool to be in there but not have a lot of room to move around, so it gets a mottled look. If it has a lot of room to be stirred and moved around, then it will have a more solid look to its dye. I'm going to bring it to a boil and then I'm going to put my walnut crystals in. I have some natural dye walnut crystals that I'm going to use for this. This pot I use exclusively for dyeing. I don't use it for cooking, and I have a spoon also that I use only for dyeing. The water has come to a simmer, so I am going to put in some of my walnut crystals and stir them and let them dissolve. My water is a nice coffee color now, and my wool is still a little damp, so I don't need to re-wet it. If it was completely dry, I would want to re-wet it before I put it in. And I am going to do both of these different colored pieces at the same time. Sometimes when you boil the wool, the dyes can come out and get on each other. But in this instance, since I'm wanting mottled, I kind of hoping that happens here. So I just want to cook this at a low simmer for, I'll start with 10 minutes and then I'll pull them out and see how they're looking. And I don't want to stir because that will make a more solid look. It's been the 10 minutes and I turned the burner off, and I'm going to take them out and I will put them in the sink and I will rinse them. We'll see how they turned out. I've had it in the sink for a little bit. You can see it is still pretty hot, and the water is really turned a reddish purplish color from the dyes leaking out. So it will be interesting to see how it turns out when it's all dry. I'm going to let it cool for a little bit longer, and then I will rinse it and then hang it out to dry. It's all dry now, and you can see there's definitely a lot of mottled look to it. It's really, the bleach kind of gave it a funny look. But I think for something like rug hooking or the project that I'm going to do, it's going to be just fine. If you were going to use this for applique, that might not be the best method of aging. It's pretty blotchy. And they all three, I had the 3 pieces. I had 2 like this before and 1 like this, and you can see that the purple dyes mixed together in the pot, and they all look very similar to one another, much more than they did before I started. But they're definitely, especially this, is a lot more toned down and usable for a primitive look, which is what I was hoping to achieve. And when I do a project like this, I never know how it's going to turn out. Different wools with their different dyes react differently to different processes. So just because it worked one way for me doesn't mean it will necessarily work the same way for you. I just want to show you different things that I experiment with so that you can have an idea of things that you might try also if you have some wools that just aren't quite the right color for your project. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.